Well, everyone, we're back in the Golf. So there's the wobble. I know it's hard to catch on camera, but I figured this was a good way to show you guys. Wobble. But if you take your foot off the accelerator, it's okay. So it's definitely under load that it does this. All right, so we got the car up on jack stands and we're gonna go underneath it now. Take a look at these CV joints and axles. Say hi to Austin.
What's going on, guys?
We're gonna get back underneath here. So do you want to grab a hold of that side? And so there's a lot of play in the wheels. A little bit of play in the CV joint on that side. That's the passenger side. It's not all that bad.
Terrible.
But when we get over here to the driver's side, there's a bit more play to it. And of course, when you spin the wheel, it changes. I don't know if I'm getting this on camera. Now when you accelerate, you can hear it clunk. And if you catch it just right there, and now you can kind of see that movement. Yeah. So I think that's our culprit. We checked the tie rod end links. These are all very firm in place. Doesn't seem to be anything loose there all the way through. Everything's pretty stiff. The ball joints, there's no play in the wheels. Scooch on out here. So if we try to pull these one way or the other, they're not really giving any play.
It's not too bad. Been much worse. Alright. No seizing action or anything.
Back off these ball joint bolts. And we forgot to video it, but we broke free the nut on the front of the CV.
One, two, three.
Oh, you didn't bust any knuckles.
I know. It's not a real job unless you do some blood.
We did take another look at the tie rods here, and they look pretty solid. The boots have a little bit of age on them, but they're not loose. They don't have any extra play or anything in it. So we're going to start with this CV, which you can see the boot for the CV is actually torn off up on the top here. See that separation. So I'm pretty positive this is going to resolve most of our problem. So yeah, we just moved the bolts on the ball joint and this thing's just falling apart. So yeah, we're pretty convinced here we found our problem. We'll take this bolt out. We got a big extension and the dead blow hammer, and we're gonna go and see if we can't push that all the way through the back side. We're probably gonna have to pull this thing towards us a little bit. Let me know if I need to put this down and give you a hand.
Right on. Let's see if we can convince her.
It's going there. It's out.
Sweet.
So
All right.
you guys see that? We got it. Woo. And yeah, this thing's that's toast.
Yeah, that's not gonna work anymore. Oh my! There's some debris and
Yep.
that's
Yeah. I'd say that's seen better days.
whew.
Wow. So we'll get this cleaned up. We gotta still pry out this center piece. So we got a pry bar, and we'll get in there, pop that out.
We've got the shaft out with some excess material. Trying to figure out how exactly to pull this half shaft out of the transmission. So we shall return.
All right, guys, so we were gifted with this wonderful CV that does not have the Allen head bolts on there to secure it into the differential itself. It has the wonderful snap ring in here. So we missed this on film because it took us, I don't know, 30 minutes or so to try and figure this out. But to make a long story short, give you guys some advice, this is in there. If you can get yourself a nice little pry bar like such, you can take the pry bar and you actually wedge the pry bar in between the back and the transmission and tap at it, work at it carefully. Obviously you don't want to damage your transmission case, but you pop this sucker in there and wedge this sucker and it'll pop out. It's kind of a bear. You have to be a little bit brutal, but that's how we got this out. Now upon further inspection, looking inside of the, I don't know what you want to call this, the drum or the boot, where the bearings were inside, you can see that this is a complete disaster. And it's still hot from driving the car and burning my fingers here a little bit. But the needle bearings are totally toast. There's some ground and broken in half. So this was totally wasted. And one of them clear fell off the end when this pulled out. But this basically should be inside there. And that's how your CV works. Gives it a pivot point to move around. So this is toast, and we'll get this swapped out and put the new one in. Then we're going to drop it down and take it for a little test drive and see how it goes. We're going to go ahead and take the new shaft here, which is nice and tight. That's how you like it. Heck yeah. So this doesn't have any play to it. Just got to kind of fish this in there. I can tell we have some space. Interesting. All right, so we thread on these bolts. And torque these back down. And we'll take a break in just a second. Grab the torque specs for these, make sure we get them down to proper spec. I mean, it's German, good and tight should work, right? But yeah, we'll do it the right way. We'll go get those specs. So what we have to do now is bring this bolt up to torque spec, and we just looked that up. It's 190 foot-pounds. So I got my trusty handy dandy torque wrench here to bring that up to spec. So what Austin's going to do is he's going to hold his foot on the brake, so it will hold everything centered, so I can go ahead and bring that to spec. So we place that on there, and we bring it up and bring it to about 190, and that should do it. So we're all set. Now we'll put the wheel back on it, and once we have the wheel back on, we're going to go ahead and change the other side, the other CV, since we have that CV2. No point in just putting this side together for the other one to fail in another few weeks with our luck. So we might as well do it now while we have it. All right.
Got to put our rims back on the car.
Killer rims. High-end stuff right here.
With our super wide 215s instead of 195s that are apparently super wide.
All right. So we'll actually torque those down once we get the car down. Back on the other side. And we already broke these free, so hopefully I can just spin these off. There we go. Wait. And there we go. Move this tire out of the way. For the torque spec of, I believe it's 26 foot-pounds. These suckers are on here. Alright, before I pull this up and out though, we're going to have to break this nut free like we did last time. Austin, you're going to jump in there and get the brakes. Now I got to remember, lefty-loosey, right? Alright. Here we go. I'm gonna try not to bounce these or be blunt with them. We don't reuse them. Torque to yield. It's in good shape though. Got that out. Heck yeah. Outside came out. Now this one, you notice, unlike the other side, it's not separating and coming apart. It's sticking together. This one's probably not bad, but since we have a new one, we're going to replace it anyway. Yeah. This is phenomenal.
Black magic.
Yeah. Harbor Freight Special.
We got way more room.
Boom, done.
Now. Heck yeah.
This is easy,
That
man.
literally took less time to pull this out than I did to take the wheel off earlier. That's awesome. So we've already done it once though. This one was just way easier though.
I'm making this side look easy.
Yeah.
So the other side took a couple hours, and this side will take 30 minutes. Sounds about right.
Yep.
Trying not to pinch any fingers.
Yeah, there we go.
Boom!
Right on.
She's in.
Still way easier
All right.
than the other one.
Bring that baby back to me.
Alright.
Here we go. Alright. Trying to put some light on there.
Still can't believe how much easier this one is. It's crazy.
Alright. Double check it. Alright, we're good. Alright, let's throw the wheels on here. So this is my cheat way. I use my legs.
Yeah, that works.
Of course, try to do things the right way, do a lot of research before we start into them. I've watched lots and lots of videos and read lots and lots of articles on how to do this job before attempting to do it. So, I'm using my feet just to hold it. This just gets us started. So now we're gonna lift the car back up, pull the jack stands out, put the car back down on the ground, and go for a quick test drive and see how our work did. Alright, so she's on the ground, and what was that magic torque spec?
Oh, shoot.
88?
Look it up again. Yeah, 88. That's right. 88 miles an hour.
That's why I remembered it.
I knew I said it for a reason. I was thinking, I was like, what remember this?
Yeah, I got that. Old school torque wrench, man.
Best way, man.
Alright guys, we got everything torqued down to spec. We got it off the jack stands. We're on the ramps right now. So kind of the maiden voyage after swapping out the shafts. I'm going to throw it in reverse. And right off the bat, that's a good sign. There's no giant clunking like there was before we swapped out the axles. So I'm going to go ahead and ease it off of the ramps here and take it down the street. Still no clunking going back into drive. It's a good sign. Here we go. Far so good, but usually doesn't start up as noticeable until 35 or 40. Look at that. It's definitely, I would say it's definitely fixed. Now I mean, you've got just the regular NVH of the car itself, and that's to be expected on a vehicle like this, but the giant vibration on acceleration and I don't know if you could feel it or see it in the camera or not, but so far that definitely appears to be gone. I ran it up real quick to the speed limit on that road, and swapping out the driver's side axle half shaft was what actually fixed it. But again, while we were in there, it never hurts to, while we had the parts, just to keep Allie from having issues down the road, make sure we went ahead and swapped that second one out on the passenger side, and I think it paid off because, yeah, it feels very smooth. It feels pretty good actually. A little 2.5 liter 5-cylinder. It's got pretty good pickup, and it really feels pretty good. Just cruising up the road here, just doing some parking lot maneuvers here. We noticed a little bit of a clunk and some play when getting on and off the throttle in tight turns before, so just giving it a couple loops here. Wow, that feels so much better. That's awesome. That's a good feeling. We're gonna have to have some fun with Jason, obviously. Going to get back up to the house here. So tell him like, oh man, that didn't fix it. I don't know what happened. Just to see what he says.
Still doing it?
Looks like we got some work to do.
Oh shit.
No, I'm just kidding. I think that was it. There's not even a sign of vibration now on it.
Dude, you totally just played me. All right, so got that wobble fixed. I didn't see any need to replace tie rods or the ball joints. All of that's solid. So I don't like throwing parts at a problem unless I know those parts need to be replaced. But as we pointed out earlier, we have oil leaking, and we knew that from the last oil change. So for those of you who watched that first video, thank you for that. We really appreciate it, and we apologize for the pain that it caused you in watching that video. But if you did watch it, you noticed that we noticed there was oil everywhere and tried to clean that off, and with the intent of looking at it again when we got the car back. So here we are, and we're gonna pop this cover off here and take another look and see if we can figure out where this oil is coming from. This is kind of my favorite part here, putting Austin to work while I hold a camera and talk about it. But so Austin's got a bit of a dilemma. Let's talk about this dilemma. He loves his Jeep out front. You guys see that white Jeep? I'll post pictures of that later. But if I've posted pictures of it before, and I'll post more in the future if he still has it. But so you want to talk about this dilemma and what you're thinking about here?
Yeah. So realistically, most of my friends know that it literally depends on the day what my thought vehicle wise is for the day. So right now, basically, my wife has a work vehicle, so the Jeep was kind of her car, and now it really just sits in the garage unless I decide to drive it to work some random day of the week. So as much as I enjoy it, I'm wondering if maybe just to keep it usable or keep the vehicle usable, I get rid of the Jeep and buy a first gen, just a WK SRT. For those of you who don't know, that came with the 6.1 liter Hemi, makes about 425 horse, all-wheel drive with the Mercedes 5-speed transmission in it, which for the time was a pretty decent transmission. They were fairly reliable, nothing too crazy. But I'm wondering if buy a higher mileage version of one of those, just kind of drive that, mix that in with the Camaro as a daily driver. Maybe eventually throw like an MP 2300 on there for a little bit of boost and a little bit more horsepower. But
I'll trade you.
Sounds good. That's the dilemma that I'm currently looking at for today or maybe this week. My wife and I have been going back and forth on this one, and she's on board. She just keeps asking, is there a specific one that I want to look at? And at the moment, no. But
see, that's the dilemma I run into. I get ideas, very much the same as what you're thinking about, and I kind of talk myself into it, but I don't bite hard into it unless I come across that car.
yes.
You know, you'll be searching Auto Trader and Cars.com and all those. Yep, give them free plugs. So you'll be checking those places out, and eventually you'll run across one. And you're like, this is the car. This is it. You know, it's got the right mileage. It's in the right condition. One owner. You know, all those things that most of us car guys are looking at. It's just the right situation and makes sense. And if I happen across that, then I'm full bore and there's no stopping me. And I have the best wife in the world, and she's usually on board with that.
That's right.
That
makes a huge difference as well, for sure.
This has got oil on it. There's no doubt about that.
A little confusing there.
If we look at this, it's all coming off this main section right at the bottom of the transmission. You can see it all up here on the transmission itself.
Yeah.
It almost looks like it's dripping down from up here. Something's leaking up top. Cover on the top, valve cover. Let's do a little bit of research and see if these have a valve cover leakage.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can slide over here, but if you look straight up there at the top, you can definitely see there's oil coming all the way down.
Oh, wow. Okay, yep.
So that'll be the next adventure. We're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's definitely...
There's no clear-cut answer to... Yeah!
Why is our oil cap missing?
I think we found a culprit.
I would say we have determined where the oil may be coming from. That's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah. Alright, so we have to go get a cap for the oil filler over there, so we'll go pick that up. In the meantime, I'm going to swap this out. So really, this is pretty easy. You pull out the panel on the inside here, and there's one bolt. Back the bolt out. Disconnect the wire for the light, and pull the light out. You swap over the light fixture itself. And it looks to just be a couple tabs in here. Boom.
Easy peasy.
Out it comes. So we clean this off. Not a perfect job, but a lot better than it was. We'll grab this fixture and we will carefully place it back in. And you'll notice there's clips on here. It more or less just clicks into place, and make sure all the clips are firmly where they need to be. And just like we pulled it out, it goes back in. So carefully we'll put it back in there, make sure everything's lined up properly. And attach the plug. Grab our little white screwdriver. So we're going to put this cover back on now that we've cleaned it up. Jacked up the rear here. We fixed this right here, so this is all in alignment. We put the screws back in. We're going to pull this rear tire off. We told Allie we would check her brakes in the back. We checked the brakes in the front, and they're plenty good, so I don't see a point to putting new pads on for no reason. So we're going to do the same with the rear here and see if we need to put pads in there or if they're good to go.
Everybody says.
They look fairly good to me. That pretty much concludes this job on here. Fix the wobble, replace the mysteriously disappearing oil cap, 2 CVs out. We do have a handful of parts here that can be returned back to Rock Auto that we didn't use. We didn't see anything wrong with the existing ones, so I don't like to change out parts just to change out parts. If there's nothing wrong with them, then we'll stick with what's in there. And we'll get this car back to Allie. We should be good to go.